Hello and good morning and welcome to my channel. Thank you very much for all of those of you who are going to be joining. I'm just thanking you in advance before you join. I started a few minutes ago, but I had to switch off because of technical issues. If there was anybody watching, you'll notice that my phone fell. Why is this so crooked? I'm seated. I think I've pulled it up too much. So I welcome you to my vlog. I'm very sorry. I decided to do a live stream because yesterday, or rather today morning, I was not able to do a I was not able to do a video at all. I just had a busy day and I was feeling very unwell. I had those of you who've been watching my videos know very well that I said I was having a stomach problem, and so today it was persistent, and it did not enable me to be able to do much. So I decided to just take it slow, and not do and I wasn't able to do a lot. So that's why I decided, because I wasn't even able to do a video, then I'll do a video today. And I think I was also tired because the day before I got into the garden to do my planting of maize. And I'm happy to report that, like I had been praying, that a night of rain is what would help, because I've planted late, it would be able to help the seed to pick up. Why has the internet gone off? Or is it still on showing? I have to check. Yes, so I was unable to do that, and so I decided that because I was unable to do the video, let me wake up and vlog. And so I woke up at 4 a.m. to come and prepare for this live stream. And can you imagine, baby wakes up? I'm here busy doing my thing, and I look around, and who do I see? The little tyke. He's up at 4 a.m. Oh my goodness. I was like, what is with this child? Where is he going at this hour? And so I returned him back to bed. And I know he's not asleep. I know he's awake, but he's just listening in, and he wants to come out and play, but I wouldn't allow it at all, because I know it's going to disrupt his day. He needs to be resting until at least 6 or 7. So I'm not going to allow it. And he's just going to stay in bed, and then probably when I finish this, I'll just go and join him, but I'm not going to allow him to be up and getting irritated and getting irritable, because what is he going to do now? He's going to start playing a lot. He's going to want to come in when I'm vlogging. He's going to interrupt with it, and I know it's also going to make him feel very tired, because he's always playing the whole day. He's always playing, so he needs his time in bed. I think he woke up because also it had been raining, and then probably when I was preparing for my vlog, he probably checked around in the bed and so I wasn't there and thought I had left or something. Though I was in the house, but I'm not going to allow him to come here. So how are you? I'm very well. Today is the 14th. Oh, how time passes. For me, my only concentration right now has been about the planting, that I must get the remaining seeds on the ground. And I must say that I was a bit worried today and yesterday that it hadn't rained, because we didn't have any signs of rain even as we went to sleep yesterday night. But around what time? Around 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. it began raining, and it rained heavily. And I was like, oh God, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I needed for some rain to fall, some heavy rain to fall, so that I would be able to know that the maize I put in the ground, because I put it quite late, is going to pick up and root. And not only that, now that it has rained, I'm going to go back inside today. Well, not myself, but I'm going to get someone, because I managed to get some funds, some little funds. So I'm going to utilize them immediately to have somebody come and add again, the way I did adding the maize, add the maize again to the driveway, where I also plant on the driveway, where I plant crops also on the driveway, to add on to that. And then today I'll probably go and make my hair, or I'll remove it and wash it today, in preparation of making it tomorrow. I mean, it's overdue, but I've been so held up with the baby, the toddler that I'm staying with, that I absolutely forgot. And that is one thing that I have to do. This week, I've also been feeling a bit depressed because of the numbers on the channel here, and I'm just wondering what is it? What is happening? Pardon me. What is happening that the channel is not growing? But I have to remind myself that whether it's growing or not, I must continue putting out the best of what I can do and not giving up. And hopefully, at one point, what did I touch? Hopefully, at one point, it's going to be okay. The video is still showing, but I'm not seeing it on my screen. Oh my goodness! But no problem. So that's just fine. I'm just going to continue working. This is so difficult when I'm on the screen and I'm not seeing what it is that I'm doing. Oh gosh, and I don't want to miss anything. Anyway, so yes, so that's what I'm working on, and my birthday is coming up next week. I don't have any plans set for that really as such, because I have to clear this, because if I don't clear this, uh it's going to mean what? It's going to mean that when I end this vlog, I'm not going to know where to touch or what to do. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, this laptop thing really, when you don't know how, when you have a problem with these technical things, it's really annoying. What in the world am I supposed to touch? Oh goodness. Am I supposed to go back? Am I supposed to? Okay, let me just go on. And when it ends, I'll just switch off the entire laptop. So yes, I've been having a bit of worry about my channel not getting more views, not getting more subscribers. I mean, sometimes it gets frustrating, it gets annoying and all that, but you have to stay being resilient with what you're doing. That's all. No matter what happens, you just have to go on with doing your thing and praying for the best. There's nothing else that you can do. And so I've just been there, and I'm hoping that one of these days, hopefully very soon, I'm going to wake up and I'll see something very tremendous has happened, and I just have this extra 100 or extra 50 people. If I knew the magic button to press, that's what I'd press. But in the meantime, I'm glad that I'm up to 182. So I'm hoping to get to 200 soon. But you keep on asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I can't lie, of course, sometimes you look at other channels, you watch other channels, and you're like, why they have such a tremendous growth, and you're just there stagnant. And me, I'm a person who likes to see progress. Progress. If I'm putting effort, I like to see progress when I'm putting effort. And so in this case, I'm putting in all the effort I can, but I'm not seeing the progress. So it's difficult, but I'm not going to let that bother me very much. I'll just pray for the best and hope that one of these days some magic is going to happen and I'll be there. On the local scene, I've just noticed that there are much more many people who are stuck in Kenya that I had imagined, because there's a channel I've been following, and the couple is also from the US, and they also said the same thing, that they're stuck in Kenya because of the flight issue right now. First of all, tickets have become very, very expensive for traveling back to the United States. And theirs is, I mean, crossing the Atlantic, that's a long flight. So they're talking about the cheapest being what, $2,800 one way, I think, per person, to $8,000. And I'm not surprised. And sometimes when you see situations like this, you're like, oh my goodness, thank God for what? Um for working online, for people who work online, people who can work remotely. If people For the people who have remote jobs, Okay, this has affected them, but not so much because wherever they are, where they have Wi-Fi, they are able to work. But people who go to the office who have to be physical, their physical presence is the most effective when they're at work. I think it must be such a blow to them, and I'm really sorry because of all that's happening. I, I'm very surprised. I told you that in Ruai it hadn't rained before it rained this night. It hadn't rained for 2 days, but I can see in the rest of Kenya there are places which are still raining very heavily, and where the flooding situation is still very bad. Of course, some of the rivers are going to take a very long while to go down, to reduce in size, because there's a lot of water coming from upriver. So that in regions where it's raining, the regions that are raining might be very far from where the greatest what velocity of the water is at. So if it's raining in the hills in a place that is far, the people downstream are going to feel the effects far much worse than the people who where the water is just flowing from and channeling its way down to the valleys and to the lower areas. And so we keep on praying for people, keep on praying, especially like I said in my last video, talking about Baringo, the children crossing the big rivers. I really pray that those people in areas like those are going to exercise due caution so that you don't put yourselves, your lives at unnecessary risk, or the lives of your children. And especially the children, they must be safeguarded very much against natural disasters like this. I know that some people are so eager to escape because they don't want to be where that flood is. They want to go with the children away. They want to, but in the process of even crossing those rivers, you're endangering yourself. Sometimes it's just good to stay put in the place where you are and suffer a little bit than in the quest of going to rescue yourself and having to bypass the danger, the biggest danger, the bigger danger. Calamities occur. And I'm also hoping to see more. I know the military was pulled out for Nairobi, but I'm hoping to see more action in different parts of the country where our government steps in and helps the people. I mean, there are regions which we know flood every year, and those are different. I mean, places like Nyamira and all. But there are other places like now within Nairobi which we did not know are capable of flooding to such extents. And then this is very shocking for people. And you have houses being swept away, you have the flood waters rising. And again, this is all neglect from the city managers, so to speak, because if you look at some of the places where the flooding is occurring, it's just backwater. It's just, I mean, water that has reached an end. It doesn't have an outlet, and so it flows back and it begins to swell. um l- if I give examples of situations I've seen here in Ruai, is that usually people wall their compounds. And I also hope at one point, if I have enough money, I'm going to wall my compound. But did you know that it is so dangerous to wall in your fence and then not leave in outlets for water drainage? Because what most people do, and that's why I'm saying that, I keep on saying that we need to have standards for the country. What most people do is that the whole compound is at a certain level, at one level, wall to wall within the compound, and then it begins to rain, and you feel that you're safe from the waters that are out of the compound because probably your gate is a bit raised and no water can come in from the street. But what you forget is that you have the water that is running down from your roofs, running down and saturating the ground within the compound, because the foundation of the peripheral walls usually goes as deep as the foundation of the main house itself. And so all this water is closed in within your compound, and then it begins to rise. And I cannot say how many times I've seen this affecting people especially here in Ruai. And there's a video I did a short while ago when I went to, I think the day I went to pick the bed sheets. Yeah, I sorry, not the bed sheets, the curtains, and I left my nephew at my cousin's place. If you watch that video, I bypassed somebody who was pumping water out of the compound, and the same thing has happened. They've walled in the compound and they have no outlets for the water. And so they to their utter shock, the compound got flooded. And the only way they could remove that water was pumping it out onto the road and then destroying the road for all the neighbors, which is very unfortunate. But to control that, all you need to do is that if you're walling yourself in, you must have channels of draining out water. And in my opinion, the best way to do it is not just to have the outlets of the water drainage at the same level as the wall. I mean, where the what where the foundation ends and the wall starts. That's what most people do. They have the outlets there. In my opinion, what you should do is that you should have holes that are slightly slanting downwards. Yeah, slightly slanting downwards, so that the outlet is on the outlet to the drainage within the compound is at a slightly lower um what altitude than the rest of the compound, so that at no point can the water and that means, of course, that probably you have to, maybe if there's a drainage outside your house, then you can channel it to that. And if not, probably you can have an underground water tank for collecting that water and then having it pumped out into a drainage or something. Or if it is the wall that is facing the outside, because most walls, if the fence, the wall side of the wall that is usually fencing the what uh, I'm sitting uncomfortably. Sorry, I have to put a pillow behind my back. Yeah. So usually the wall that is fence, the wall that is on the side of the gate usually has the road allowance, which should be having a drainage of some sort. If it doesn't, I mean, it's probably just because the development of the area region hasn't done that, but there'll always be a sort of drainage bypassing the house. And so you can have the outlets to the drainage in your compound angled at such just a slight incline or decline, is it, so that they drain out the water. But if you just have them at the same level as your compound, it means that you'll have to wait for the flooding to have risen to a certain level for it to be able to go out. It's just simple science, and it's a factor that a lot of people ignore. I once had a neighbor again where I lived before, and the same thing happened to their house. It was walled in. A lot of the compound had concrete, and there wasn't much space for the water to be absorbed. And so when it starts rising, again, what I said, the backflow. And in this case, the unfortunate thing is that the water was also coming in from the gate because it was it was flood season. But when it got to the back, there was nowhere to go, and so it started rising. And when it does that, it now damages a lot of your property within the house, furniture and all that. And it also poses a danger to you, especially because in Ruai we also have pit latrines. So that's another danger that you get because of now the spread of disease. And so they had to wait until the waters had subsided, and then they pierced a hole through. And one other thing also is that if people are making these drainage holes to ensure that their compounds stay dry, you should be careful to put mesh in it. Because as we are learning now, this flood has taught us, is that when the waters are rising, they are rising with everything. We have snakes, we have all sort of creatures and debris coming up. So it's good if you have some sort of meshing or on the hole, whatever the diameter is, so that in case, even in the dry season, because it's not only that water is going to pass through in the wet season, but also in the dry season, you prevent creatures coming in from outside, or, yeah, especially coming in from outside, because there are those who will probably think, oh, I mean, there's a hole somewhere, and they can now enter into your compound and pose a danger. But that's all. I don't know. And if we had standards for construction in the city, it would help so much. I've seen what is it in the UK, the way yeah, when I'm watching, especially home renovations, I'm so impressed because They have very strict laws about if you're increasing, what kind of, where, how to what manage your dirt, how you the everything that you're bringing, what kind of packaging there should be, what kind of fencing you should put to prevent neighbors getting having interruptions because you're constructing. If you're putting an additional section to your house, the requirements for the ground footage, that's the foundation for the walling, that's very nice. It gives a sort of control. I think in Nairobi we have that. We all know we have that. But it's usually ignored. And again, I don't think it is publicized enough so that people can go. And so, in places in the outskirts of Nairobi, where people, a lot of places in Nairobi now where people are buying land and building themselves, you find them doing very Juakali thing. Yes, the government has institutionalized the construction industry so that you have all these professionals, and then they've gone ahead and I think done TVET training for a lot of the Juakali artisans so that they can be able to help. But more needs to be done on sensitization so that people can know that the services are accessible. A lot of people have this general fear that construction is so expensive if you use professionals, so that you'd rather not use professionals. And then what happens in the end is that we have collapsed buildings, we have substandard buildings, we have people's lives being endangered, especially if you put up the construction and it's not only for you and your family, but you're also renting it out. But it's good for us to educate ourselves on some of these things and get to know what the bylaws are. And if the bylaws, of course, were, if they were, what do you call it? If there was more sensitization on the bylaws, it would help, because the only sensitization that that we get a lot from the county government is about land rates. But on issues concerning construction, they are usually just in form of threats when they've come across buildings that are substandard and everything. But they don't do a lot of positive sensitization to tell residents, and not just in Nairobi, but in the whole of Kenya, of course, but to tell them to encourage them more on the benefits of using professionals when they're doing construction for their properties, no matter how basic it is, even up country. I mean, we have professional artisans who know how to put up houses and do a very good job around Kenya. But now within the city, of course, the bylaws are now in control, but ignorance is also very high because of fear, based out of fear. Everybody is afraid of the county council officials and getting to go and ask them questions. I mean, devolved government, as it devolved, it should have heightened a lot of the customer care services. As that would help very much in the construction industry. I can say that that is lacking. One of the things I also talked about in the last video that I did was I noticed that when I was making the video, and that video had so many mistakes, the last one that I made, you know, you watch your own videos sometimes after you've posted them, and you look, and either you're very happy with the production you've made, or there are so many flaws and then you're regretting and you can't pull it down. If I pull down that video and it had 8 viewers, 8 viewers are lost from my from my countdown. And if it had 1 hour, or if it had half an hour of viewing, that 1 hour is also deducted from my viewing. So I'd rather keep the video on. And also mistakes, it's common to make mistakes. And so I noticed that at one point I had touched a button in the editing app and it shut out all the sound. And I was so frustrated when I was editing that video because I kept trying to edit on the phone and it was full and it kept on hanging. And I think there's even one clip where the sound absolutely went off. It just started hanging. And when I unloaded it, I could not even get that sound at all. Not that even it was the mistake, the error I made in the app. And all this was frustration. All this frustration, was, of course, was coming from the fact that I didn't have money. The main cause of it was I've been having a shortage of money, and this planting was really, really affecting me, because these are long-term things that you want to be put in place and then to forget about them and then just start managing them. And so I was getting eaten by the fact that am I going to stay without proper crop on the ground and everything? And I think the time when I did the video, that's when I had just finished. But yeah, finances affect me sometimes. They make me angry. When I don't have money and I need to do something, I get into another mood altogether. And I think it's just natural. I mean, there's nothing for me to apologize about it. Nobody likes being broke. But where the sound went off at one point, I was talking about the importance of reading. I was talking about the project that had been done by India. I think it was sponsored by one of the top actors or somebody famous in India. But the thing I was talking about was reading. And I said one time I'm going to do an entire vlog about the importance of reading. Reading is very important for not only opening the mind, but opening up realizations of people, because reading gives you a better memory of things than audiovisual. You know, now with audiovisual instruments, social media especially, look at something like TikTok, even what is it called? Even this YouTube. It's so easy for you to swipe, and swiping is one of the most, I could say, things. One of the worst things that should not be encouraged. I also swipe, but I wonder what it does to our memory. You know, you're just swiping, swiping, swiping. Don't like this swipe. Don't like this swipe. I like this. You watch it for 10 minutes, and it assists. But you know, with a book, you cannot swipe. If you're reading a book, you're going to start it, you're going to understand every bit that you're reading. It's either going to captivate you or not, but every little thing that you're going to capture is going to encourage you in one way or another, is going to uplift you, is going to captivate you, is going to intrigue you, is going to surprise you. I mean, you'll always it's going to inform you. It could be anything. And not even just books, even magazines. I know when I was growing up, we had apart from Reader's Digest, we had cartoons. I mean, they're not cartoons, sorry, comic books. But they showed the comic books were a short step to actual reading of full books, because the comic books had storylines. And I don't know about popularity of comic books right now, because I don't see children exchanging comics the way we used to do. I mean, we'd always exchange comics around the estate. If it was Reader's Digest series, you'd always find out who had the latest, who had the previous. And you know, with Reader's Digest, it did not matter. Even if you had one of 10 years ago, it was always going to give you a lot of interesting stuff. And I must say that's one of the most interesting books that I started reading at a very young age. And then I remember we had the Famous Five series, we had Nancy Drew series. And then as we got older, now we got into Mills and Boone, we got into the rest of the drama novels. And reading novels was very, very usual for teenagers and adults. And I must say that if I compare the behavior of people who grew up with this reading of comics, of novels, of yeah, a series of books, Reader's Digest. We had the encyclopedia back then, and it was for reading. We didn't have it on TV like it is now. You had to read it, and you'd borrow. For people who are rich enough to afford them, you could borrow from them. But we also had a very wide variety of magazines. I remember there was Drum magazine, there was True Love. This is in Kenya. There was True Love, and the cartoon that was a, what can I say? It wasn't a cartoon. It was a picture photo series that was made in the form of a comic book, and it was called the Spear. Was it the Spear? Yeah, somebody can correct me. I think it was the Spear. It was the most popular in East, probably East and Central Africa. And those of us who grew up in this era where we had reading as a culture of reading, so that we knew across the board what books were being read. I mean, people did not just read set books. Nowadays, children read set books. And the other thing that I see probably young adults reading is motivational books, only to grow their wealth in business. They don't. They That's just it. You cannot only want to grow yourself business wise. You also need entertainment. You also need to learn about other cultures. You also need to learn about space a bit, learn about stones, learn about the art of making furniture, learn about the making of Swiss watches, learn about, because these are the kind of things, most of the novels especially would open us into the world of professions that were not common probably in Kenya or East Africa. And so we got to learn a lot about major cities in the world and what happens in those cities. I mean, before television was common to many of us, we knew about Venice. Uh, we knew it was a city with water and boats, and because the novels explained it very well, we read it very well. We knew about narrow streets of London, about the East London. We had specific information about very many places on earth because the writers would delve into such precise details about places and behaviors of people that at the end of the day you'd have, without ever having even watched on TV. In fact, some of the things, I guess, when we started watching on TV, would be like it was already familiar with us, and we were looking out for a more specific detail that we had read about in books. James Hadley Chase. I mean, these were writers who wrote novels that went viral across the world. Viral as we knew it then, not viral as we know it now with social media. And so, one thing that is lacking with children now is the discipline of patience. And one of the things that reading taught us as young people was to have discipline, because in reading books, there had to be a discipline of an inbuilt discipline of patience. I don't know how to explain this patience, but you are reading a book chapter by chapter. You are going to discuss this book with friends. You are going to live the image of the story in your head. And so you had to be careful, to read the words carefully, to repeat sentences sometimes, to conjure in your mind how the thing that was being described, or the scene that was being described, or the posture that was being described was. And that took time. And a lot of people would, if it was in school, of course, there were library hours. But if it was at home, people would spend time at home actually concentrating on a novel, on a series of whatever series it was, so that they could understand it so well that when they were now discussing it later on with other people, they might have the details at hand. And I appreciate that. It's something that I think it should be encouraged more in the children of nowadays. They do read, yes, a lot of books at school, and then even the storybooks they read. Sometimes I go to look at the storybooks. When I was on the board of management for a local primary school, I was looking at some of the storybooks they have, and everything has been so commercialized. There's a lot of junk that is being given to children in school in the name of storybooks. I mean, you read some of those storybooks. It's yeah, they are stories, but what are they building? I mean, they are so ABC-ish. They don't have they what can I say? In general, they are they almost have common themes. They don't challenge the mind a lot. And especially children getting into mid school, which is probably from grade 5 to grade 9, and then coming on to secondary school, they need their minds to be challenged. You shouldn't have books that are so simple for them. It's just a straightforward layout of a story. It has no excitement. It has no what? It has no thrill. It has no mystique about it. No, you don't grow children's minds like that. You must give them a lot of suspense. You must give them reason to think and ponder and decide what do they mean by this. And well, getting into secondary school, of course, there are books that are have much more wealth in them and depth, so to speak. But the primary school books, I must say, there's a lot of commercialization, at least for the books I've seen in Kenya. And I don't know about other parts of the world because I've not been reading children's books of late. But I know that in our time when we were younger, and that's why they had series of books. and you could follow them through and through, and you'd build ideas of what the characters are, and they had specific characters, and you went from episode 1 to episode 2 to, and sets of books and sets of books, and it was just about the same group of characters. For example, like Enid Blyton's Famous Five. Those yeah, maybe it's not a Kenyan, yes, but I must say, of course, they were good books. And even in Kenya, we had some famous writers. Of course, some of them had very controversial topics. Like I know David Mailu was totally a PORN writer, but he had very, very quality stuff. And then the Gugiwa Thiong'os, of course, we had those, I mean, the maestros of books, if I may call them that. And we had a lot of good writers. Where did they go? Where did they go? I no longer hear of people writing such good books. There are biographies, very good biographies that are running around in Kenya, but books for adults that have suspense, that have thrill, that have excitement. Somebody tell me. Maybe I'm just out of the book club so much that I don't know. And I want African books. The last very good story I read, I think, was must have been 10 years or more, and this was I think the lady won an award. The writer, the author, won an award. It wasn't a Pulitzer. It wasn't I don't know what the award was, but I've read some very good books by African women writers telling their own experience. But in this case, that was a book that I read that impressed me so much, and it was about a family that had escaped the war in, was it Rwanda or Burundi? And then they came to Kenya, then they had to stay in a hotel. They had to be housed in the hotel, and they couldn't afford because they had literally escaped with only their lives. But they were known to be very wealthy, and they were frequent visitors to expensive, fancy hotels in Kenya. And I remember that it was so significant how she talked about they went to the Hilton, and they were very well known at the Hilton, but they were using the last dollars that they had, the rest of the money they had, to make do and survive in Nairobi. And so what they did was they came out, secretly. They would come out one person after one person after one person without arousing suspicion, and they stole laundry, bed sheets, pillows, stuff from the hotel so that they could go and start a life in a slum in Nairobi. And now as what displaced persons in Kenya, and the trauma that this person underwent, lost most of the family members, and by chance went on to later on overcome all this as the war continued and ended, and later managed to migrate, I think, I can't remember, but to some part in the West. But the story was a very clear indication of how displacement by wars can happen to anybody. No, it doesn't matter how much wealth you have. Once you're a displaced person, you're at heaven's mercy, because you're just as good as the next displaced person who had nothing back home. You both have nothing there. You have no papers. You're a refugee. You're in hiding. You're fearing because back home you're even being sought after, especially if you're a powerful person. In this case, they had come from a very wealthy family, and people from the wealthy families were even being targeted, even abroad, by nationals of those countries, even those who are in the diaspora, because of claimed atrocities they had done, or other crimes they might have been labeled as, they might have been accused of having done when they were back home. And that was a very lovely book. I mean, you read through, you felt the emotion in every chapter, you felt the fear in every chapter, the anticipation, the horror, you felt the worry that they carried around them, sometimes the despair. Those are the feelings that should be elicited by a good read. by a good read. I'd like to see book clubs more often being done among schools, even in estates. I mean, I'd appreciate if I had a few parents who talk about their children meeting probably once a month or something to discuss certain books that they're reading, and whatever kind of books they are, to encourage one another. Books will not only teach you open your mind, but they also improve your language. And the reason why a lot of people 40 and older speak better English. I mean, English is not our mother tongue, yes, that's for granted, but it is the formal language we use in this country. And so most of us, because of having read books and then watched cartoons and read comics that did not have the language that they have now, that is so vulgar, is so it's so different. I mean, it's not straightforward. What ordinary language, they'll have explicities and everything. But in our day, it was it was everything was much calmer, and everything was much more straightforward. And so that was one way also of learning good English, of learning good language, whether it was Kiswahili or English, from the reading of the books, because they used very straight language. They used very formal language. And yeah, not to say that, of course, there wasn't some colloquial language used in it, but you'd always know when the section had colloquial language being used. So for me, my intention is I've brought up my children reading books a lot and valuing books a lot, but and also in my organization, my community-based organization, I encouraged children to read storybooks a lot. But I saw very fast that a lot of the children that I was dealing with did not quite love the storybook as much as they liked to have the book. Because the storybook is beautiful and it has beautiful pictures, and so for them, their main intention was not even to go and read the stories, but to go and look at the pictures and just admire that. And I could see that the minds of the children, but again, I was dealing with very vulnerable children. They were not really into storybooks. And then they wanted, they wanted that ownership kind of feeling, to have the books and not return them, so that they can go and look at, wow, the children in the books and how they're dressed and how they, so to in order for you to cultivate that correction, in order for me to cultivate that reading culture among the persons that I work with, the very vulnerable persons that I work with, I guess I'd have to like have what I intended to have, like, right from the start, but hasn't happened. I'd have to have a sort of what can I say, like an outbuilding, an outside block, a separate block, like a sort of a classroom or just a room, but a center where people can come, and then the children can have can make it a habit that, that when you come in, you sign in and you sit down, and there's an order of what you're going to sign, what you're going to do. I'm going to read a book, and you get the book and you read it. And then you might be given a piece of paper and asked, what was it about? Did you read about the book? And you write A, B, C, D. Because the more children write, the better they also become good at their language. And that's what I'd like to have. Because if I had a center, then the children don't have to borrow the books and take them home until probably somebody has done the reading at the center for a period of 3 months and is trusted, and the parents have signed in that this is our child. If they take any property, we are going to return it. Then they can start borrowing books. But otherwise, from the little that I saw when they were here, there's a lot of yeah, not really the great interest. And then I knew also when they take the books home, there's going to be almost no chance that they're going to read it. There's either a lot of housework being given to the children, or they where they place their bags is usually, there's a lot of school books also. There's an opportunity of it getting lost, either when it goes to school or when they're at home and they throw it somewhere. A lot of homes didn't have, well, I don't know about now, but I think the difference is not very much. A lot of the vulnerable homes around us do not have proper storage. And so even just keeping the school bags for the children is a hassle, because you don't have, positioned places that shelving done. Many of the semi-permanent homes here come as just as an empty room. And this is something that I really wish, well, I wish, but I know that once I get on my feet properly with my community-based organization, I am going to ask, because I have such a deep interest in architectural matters. And so I'm going to encourage a lot of the people here who own semi-permanent buildings and who usually either rent them out or give them free to workers or people who watch over their compounds so that their land is not taken. I think I'd go about and talk to them and encourage them to make it a standard that whenever anybody puts up a semi-permanent house, they put in just some shelves, some shelving in one corner of the room, and they put it strategically so that probably it will be in the living room or in the bedroom, but just some shelving. Shelving is very important. That is one major shortage that I saw in almost every home that I went to, that I visited when I was doing my community work. And people don't even realize the importance of it. You find food being kept in containers on the floor or on a box. Kenyans have a habit of keeping boxes. I don't know where we got the suitcase culture, whether it must be the British. You just keep a box, and that box has everything inside it. And it works as a table, and it also works as a container. Uh, and then if there's a table, the table is for putting food, but not usually for that. That's it. But you'll rarely find. So now, of course, I mean, with permanent homes, that's different. I mean, you enter the home and it has very good shelving all around. But the importance of the shelving should not be sidelined just because a home is semi-permanent. Shelving is just very, very important. If I could, and when I have ability, I think I'm going to gift several homes um, cupboards. I mean, it's just a question of buying so many planks of wood and getting good carpenters. And you don't even need good carpenters. Even a lot of the men on the street are able to do some cutting. I just make it a standard that the shelf is going to have probably 6 shelves and two sides for each, and then it can be pushed into a corner. And if I give it as a standalone, then I can tell the people wherever you move, any other time you move, even after you stop living in this place, you can always travel with this shelf. And so that sometimes when you instill in somebody the need for something and the importance for something, you give them motivation now to go out and get another one like that to help more. And then when they realize, and for me, the most important thing that I'd like to gift people shelving is food storage. Because what I saw is that most homes, the food storage, what I found was they could not even do bulk shopping because food is just in some of the flour is still in the packet, and it's a paper packet, so mice can come at it, cockroaches can come at it. If it's they buy everything in small bits, and that's another thing that shelving assists with. If you have shelves and then you are able to buy containers, bigger containers, and line them up on a shelf, then you can know that I have a 2 kilogram tin of sugar. I have a 5 kg container, that's for flour. I have another 4 kg container, that's for rice. Then you can stock up some more. But when you're always having, things in small paper bags, things in thank you, Lance, for coming in. Thank you. I appreciate you. Habari ya asubuhi. I hope you have a nice day. And so the shelving would help so much, so that one of the things, of course, the first thing is food, so that they can be able to store their food on the shelves. And because some of these homes, again, as I said, they're semi-permanent, they're surrounded by gardens. So when we have maize in high season, there are so many mice. I know where there are mice, it's going to bring snakes. But if the food is in good containers, the storage of food is done well, that will help. And then now the school bags. Then children can have possibility of having a place to keep their school bags in, because that's one thing I think about all the time. Another thing is also a storage of documents. And what I did in one session I had for women is that I gave them all folders, about 100 women. I gave them folders, not manila, but plastic sealable folders. And I told them, learn to keep your documents in a safe, waterproof kind of, what is it called, wrapping. And that's why I went out and bought those and I gave them. And I told them, because I found in many of the homes I had gone, I had seen, I'd asked them, where's the birth certificate of your child? And they'd be like, oh, I don't know where. I think I've kept in this box. I think I've kept it where. and they'd search for it, and it comes out so crumpled. You're like, okay. And what about the birth certificates of the children? And the person is going to go looking, and you're like, are you going to lift all those clothes to go and look for that document? And they're like, I know it's just somewhere there, and it's piled up with stuff different. And so in the with the workshop that I did one time, one of the things that I was sensitizing was, again, storage of documents, because these are key factors of stuff that I've seen that needs action. Uh, um, Taking action on among the communities that I work with. And so I gave them those folders, and they became of very great help. I mean, years later, I'll meet some of the women are coming for assistance. And when I ask them for documents, they are coming with the same plastic, plain plastic, transparent, manila envelope, and they're showing me, you remember, mom, you're the one who gave me this, and this is where I store my papers. And I'm very happy for it. But now there's storage for the children to keep books, so that, even nice clothes. I mean, us Africans, I know in the West, you don't seem to have a difference. People in the West and developed countries don't seem to have a very big difference between which are clothes for going out and which are clothes for staying in the house. I mean, you just generally are always smart, or a very little difference of how you dress up. But here, for us in Africa, we are very specific. We have clothes for staying at home, and we have clothes for going out. And so sometimes the children's clothes for going out will be in paper bags, and will be stacked in places and everything. And I told you, we have a box mentality, and maybe the box is old and tattered and it's on the floor. Having a shelf that is raised off the ground might allow, at least for a paper bag with some of the better clothes, to be put somewhere off the ground, and somewhere where it's a bit aerated, and not a box that is under the ground and on the floor. And this is one thing a lot people should know, that when you keep things on the floor, especially suitcases, and because they keep on getting old, they get moldy, and they attract stuff, and they get dirty. But I don't know, it's just a culture that needs to be instilled in people, so that you always have a what a little platform on which to keep things, and not on the floor. That would help. But these are just dreams again. Like I said, my community based organization is on its knees right now, not doing very well. And and I'm hoping that it's going to peak as I grow. And one of the things I'm doing is, I'm hoping that as my channel grows and then I get into monetization, I'm going to use that money to be able to do these things, because they're dreams that I have, they're hopes that I have, they're aspirations that I have, they're goals that I have. But none of this can be met without money. And the money is not forthcoming right now. But that doesn't, shouldn't, and will not kill my dreams. I'll just keep on hoping for the best. I'll keep on working at it. And where I can advise, I will. But I mean, always, of course, I know when you have an organization, you don't just wish. You want things to be able to work, and you work towards making them work. And I'm hoping that ways are going to open someday. But I always have like to have the the charted some plans that are charted for what is priority for when money comes, because these are some of the things. And like I said, I don't like working with individuals at all. If I'm doing assistance to the community, I prefer to work with a group of people. So even if I was, for example, to give out this shelving, I'd not give out to a particular person. I'd pick a bunch of probably 5 families, with the intention that it's going to help those 5 families. But from those five families having benefited from that, then another 5 families can come and see what has happened in these homes, and you may inspire some of them to do it themselves. I mean, probably not with the same kind of material or the same quality of material, but similar material. And sometimes people just need a trigger, sometimes a trigger of the positive, to inspire them to do something. And people are seated sometimes without ideas, and with um, people are seated sometimes and just hoping for an idea, just hoping for something to inspire them to do something, because they've been thinking about something, and Others also have fear. There are people also who have fear, who might be thinking of this, but they think, now if I suggest this, then what will happen? And just get rid of your fears. And that's what, for me, I feel that that's my placing by God into community service, where I can go and encourage people that the kind of ideas you have, they are valid and they make a lot of sense, not only to yourself but other people. So go with them, run with them, and go shine in the world. Yeah, there are people who just need a bit of encouragement, a bit of nudging, a bit of push, and to get them where they really truly belong, which is in the realm of success, in the realm of development, in the realm of bettering themselves. But sometimes they're just crushed by having been in abject poverty for so long. And sometimes I see that when I encourage people and then they get their kick, they get their confidence back, they get their, you know, I keep on affirming them, affirming them. You are capable, you are very well able, you are worth it. I know you can do it. I know this is not beyond you. I know you are meant to do something bigger than what you're happening. And then you see somebody blossoming and you're like, wow, is this the same person I met? Yeah, because poverty sometimes crushes people into losing faith in themselves. It makes them lose confidence. A lot of times, I know the one thing that is lost by poverty among the first is confidence, self worth, what uh, the energy to want to do something good, to want to do something great. You know, some of them have been so crushed for such a long time. They believe that they can't be great or that they can't do something great. But when I talk to people, when I interact with people for a period of a while, I can always, almost very accurately, gauge what their capabilities are, and I keep on affirming them all the time. You once told me that you're able to do this. Why don't you give it a try? Give this a push. Do this. Have faith in yourself. Dress a bit better. Just take care of your hair. Just wear that smart blouse once in a while. Change. Put this on. Just come out looking a bit better. Be confident in yourself, because if you keep on looking drabby all the time, you're also going to feel drabby. And that is the one thing that I've seen that inspires a lot of women to suddenly start glowing. Because when a woman is depressed, she also looks shabby. And so, a lot of these vulnerable women that I deal with, the first thing I tell them is that stop looking shabby. You don't need to have a full bath. Just do your hair a bit. Make sure every day at least you've oiled your face, you're looking nice. Tie a headscarf if you can't make your hair. Or ask a friend to make your hair. You know, put on a nice shoe once in a while. Put on a nice, beautiful skirt. Don't just keep them for Sunday, because you meet them. You meet some of the people on Sunday, they are looking awesome, transformed, and totally, absolutely beautiful and nice and everything. And then the rest of the day, I know, of course, probably it's because they are casual workers and all that. But I know it's also because it's what is in their mind. They feel so useless the rest of the time. But when they go to church, they have this hope, because religion is a game changer in Kenya. It's the one thing that gives people all the confidence and all the hope. And so I tell them, don't just put it in church, put it also in yourself, in every day. Sometimes just rise up and dress in white. Sometimes dress in something bright, something flowery. And the more they do it, the more compliments they receive from people, the more they hear people talking nice about them, they start gaining confidence and they start feeling happy. And they start seeing that, wow, it's true. Yeah, I can actually make it. And I tell them, look further afield. Don't just stagnate yourself in that the only thing you can do is work for people in their gardens or in their homes doing their laundry. Sometimes reach out, go and ask somebody else, is there something else I can do? Or if there's something you've ever done and you know there's somebody who has an opening for it, go tell them, I'm capable of doing this. I can do painting. I've done painting. I can do masonry. I mean, I can carry around stones, or I can carry the water. More women now are entering into the realm of construction here locally within the region. And I've seen that when they do that now, they get on the same level as men, getting paid 600 to 700 shillings per day for what they're doing. And they're like, wow, this is better than the 400 or 500 I'm getting when I go to do laundry. And I'm doing laundry and coming back so tired, and I've been so cold, and But here I'm just doing within my work limits. And in the evening, I'm leaving home with everybody else happy for my pay. And sometimes you're getting a contract that is going to run for a whole month or a whole week. That is much more helpful. So it's good for us to encourage other people at all points, because even we feel depressed sometimes, but it's only that some of us are at such levels that the kind of people you're going to ask for assistance might not require just a direct question of, I need uplifting, or they'll not just offer to come and say that I think you're not looking like you're doing well. You need some assistance. It's different. But in all ways, it's just a question of showing love to one another, helping one another. And for me, my prayer is that one of these days, it's either that I'm going to monetize my channel, or it's that I'm going to get a sufficient grant to manage the organization. But whichever way it is, I'm not going to kill my passion for working with the community, because I feel it's not just a calling, but it's something that gives me so much happiness working with people. So much, so much. And like I said at one point, I think I should do a video showcasing, because I have a lot of photos, not necessarily videos, but showcasing some of the work I did from pre-corona to after corona, and the joy, the lives that we transformed. I'm going to make sure that I look for that one of these days. I bring it, so that, because I keep on telling people I've done community work, and I know some of you are wondering, what community work is this you've seen? Can't see it on the website. We don't have a website. We don't have it on your social media. But it's because I have all this stack of photos and documentation just kept privately, because I've not had a platform to do it. But this is a platform now. So I'm going to see whether I'm going to ensure one of these days, even if it's not all of it, I do a snippet of it, and with people who give an authorization for me to probably take their photos, and then so that you can see the magnitude of the work that I've done, and not just always asking. Josephine keeps on talking about our community-based organization. What has she done? Where has she done it? What proof do we have? I have the proof, and I'll show it to you one of these days. We'll share it, and I hope you like, and I hope it will also inspire some of you. When I keep calling for assistance, this is the assistance I need for me to get up on my feet and do a bit more for community. It needs money. I mean, that's why organizations get funding, and how better if I can get funding also from some of you who are capable, but just uh, don't know how to approach it, and but would be very willing to give any assistance to get to the next person and uplift somebody else. And so my prayer is that first of all, you subscribe to the channel, you follow me on this channel, you like the video, because those are the little things that are going to take me to the next level. So bye bye. Have a good day. Have a lovely day. Have a lovely week. And wherever you are, reach out to somebody, encourage them, inspire them, uplift them. And I pray to God that you may be the miracle that somebody was waiting for all their life, or all their week, or for this month, and that you make their day and make their life and inspire them to to better themselves.